You'd think a place like the Saturday farmers market would be all sunshine, laughter, and the scent of fresh strawberries, but that's not what caught Ava's eye. She was just 5 years old, her hair in two wild pigtails, sticky from a melted lemon lollipop, and she should have been watching the street performer juggling oranges. Instead, she drifted toward a dark corner by the food stalls, where the noise faded into a different kind of quiet. That's where she saw him, a thin German shepherd with haunted eyes, chained to a post beside a stack of cardboard boxes. The dog's coat was patchy, his ribs visible even under the dim shade. He didn't bark or whimper, just watched the crowd with a hope that flickered and died every time someone walked past. Ava tugged on her mom's sleeve, but Lauren barely noticed. She was juggling her phone, a tote bag full of groceries, and the sharp ache of fresh grief. Her own mother's passing just a few weeks back had left her lost, and today was supposed to be a distraction. "Mommy, look at that dog," Ava insisted, her voice cutting through the murmur of shoppers. "Why's he all alone?" The vendor at the stall barely glanced down from his cash register, eyes hard, tired, and not the least bit interested in children's questions. "That mutt? He's nobody's dog. Just trash nobody wants. Someone dumped him here 2 days ago. He'll be gone by Monday. Don't worry about it, kid." Ava's eyes widened, her small fingers curling tighter around the hem of her shirt. She stepped closer, ignoring the way the dog tensed, his body rigid as a fence post. For a moment, his ears perked. Maybe hope? But the clang of a dropped pan sent him shrinking back, tail tucked. Ava crouched, meeting his gaze. "Hey, boy," she whispered. "It's okay. I see you." Lauren was already apologizing to the vendor for her daughter's curiosity, glancing anxiously at her watch. The day was getting away from her, and the to-do list at home felt as heavy as an anchor. "Ava, we need to go. I promised we'd bake cookies for Grandma's memorial." Her voice cracked a little, just enough that Ava noticed, but Ava's focus was fixed on the dog. "He's scared, Mommy. He's all alone," Ava pleaded, her voice trembling. "Can we help him? Please?" Lauren hesitated. For a moment, she saw not just a stray dog, but every bit of loneliness she'd felt in the weeks since her mother passed. She remembered how her own childhood dog had crawled into her lap the day her father left, pressing his nose to her cheek until the tears stopped. But this was different. They were already stretched thin. Work had been relentless, and David, her husband, was traveling more than ever. "I don't know, honey," Lauren said, running a hand through her hair. "That dog's not ours, and we don't know where he came from." Ava's eyes shone with stubborn tears. "He needs someone. I can take care of him, I promise." The vendor, impatient now, cut in. "Look, lady, if you don't want trouble, keep moving. That mutt's not your problem. Like I said, come Monday, he won't be here." There was something dark in his tone, a finality that chilled Lauren. She gathered Ava into her arms, trying to comfort her, but Ava twisted away, looking back at the dog with a look Lauren hadn't seen before. Fierce, desperate, full of impossible hope. As they walked away, the market's cheerful chaos seemed to fade. Ava kept glancing over her shoulder, every step heavier. She could still see the German shepherd's eyes, watching her, pleading for someone to notice, to care. The rest of the afternoon, Ava barely spoke. She turned down a second cookie sample, wouldn't smile for the balloon artist, and clung to her mom's hand as if afraid she might disappear too. When they reached the car, Ava pressed her nose to the window, searching for one last glimpse of the dog. The market was crowded, voices loud, but to her everything felt distant, except for the silent promise she made to herself. She wouldn't forget him. She couldn't. That night, after dinner, Lauren found Ava sitting on the floor, paper and markers spread out in front of her. She was drawing a picture, a skinny dog with big, sad eyes, and above it, she'd written in shaky letters, "Please help the dog. He needs a friend." Lauren's heart twisted. She thought of her own mother, the empty chair at the kitchen table, and all the times she'd wished for just a little more kindness in the world. She wanted to tell Ava that things would get better, that lost dogs and broken hearts could be mended, but the words caught in her throat. As Lauren tucked Ava into bed, the little girl whispered, "If we don't help him, who will?" The question lingered long after the lights went out, echoing in the quiet house. Outside in the dark, the farmer's market slowly emptied. Somewhere behind a shuttered food stall, the lonely dog lay down, head on his paws, waiting for a kindness he was almost afraid to believe in. And as Sunday crept closer to Monday, fate held its breath. Because sometimes the smallest acts of compassion can change everything. Night fell over the town like a heavy blanket. But in Ava's room, sleep was nowhere to be found. She lay curled beneath her favorite quilt, staring up at the ceiling as shadows danced in the corners. The image of the lonely German shepherd haunted her thoughts. The way his eyes had pleaded for help, the way he'd flinched at every sudden sound, the way the vendor's words echoed like a threat. "He'll be gone by Monday." Downstairs, the house was quieter than usual. Lauren moved through the kitchen on autopilot, putting away groceries, her mind half lost in memories of her own mother. How gentle she'd been with every stray animal, how she used to say, "Kindness is never wasted, honey. You never know who you're saving." Tonight, Lauren's heart felt pulled in too many directions. She wanted to comfort Ava, to shield her from hurt, but she also worried about bringing more chaos into a life already crowded with sorrow. The dinner table sat mostly untouched. Ava pushed her peas around her plate, silent, lips pressed together in a stubborn line. David, her father, glanced between Lauren and Ava, uncertain whether to break the silence or let it settle. "Ava, honey, you need to eat something," he tried, his voice gentle but tired. Ava shook her head. "Not hungry." Lauren tried to coax her with a promise of ice cream, but Ava just shook her head again. "Can we help the dog, please?" Her voice was barely a whisper, but it sliced through Lauren's resolve. David sighed, setting down his fork. "Ava, we can't just bring every stray animal home. Dogs are a lot of responsibility, and we don't even know if he's safe." Lauren winced. She'd been hoping to avoid this conversation, at least for tonight. "We'll talk about it tomorrow, okay?" she said, forcing a smile. But Ava didn't answer. After dinner, she disappeared into her room and didn't come out, even when Lauren called for story time. A storm rolled in outside, thunder rumbling in the distance. But inside Ava's room, the little girl was determined. She pulled out her markers and grabbed a sheet of construction paper, writing in big, careful letters, "Please help the dog. He is all alone." Underneath, she drew a picture of herself standing next to the German shepherd, both of them smiling, a wish, not a memory. She taped the sign to her window, pressing her palm to the glass. Then she made a vow, as fierce as any promise she'd ever made. She would not smile, not once, not for anything, until she knew that the dog was safe. When Lauren peeked in later, she found Ava huddled beneath the window, clutching her favorite stuffed rabbit, a silent sentry keeping watch over the empty night. Downstairs, the tension between Lauren and David grew. Lauren's heart ached for her daughter's pain. But David was practical, worried about risks. A strange dog, the cost, the fear of bringing more heartache into their fragile family. I just don't think it's safe, he said, rubbing his temples. What if he's aggressive? What if he's sick? We've got enough going on, Lauren. Lauren's reply was soft but resolute. Ava hasn't asked for much, not since Mom died. She's hurting, David. We all are. Maybe this dog needs us as much as we need him. David shook his head, but something in Lauren's eyes made him pause. Just promise me you'll be careful, okay? Late that night, as rain pattered softly against the windows, Ava made her move. She slipped out of bed, tiptoed past her parents' room, and crept outside in her pajamas and rain boots. The night air was cool and smelled of wet earth and hope. She made her way down the block, her small heart hammering with worry and determination. When she reached the farmer's market fence, she found the German shepherd still tied to the post, shivering beneath a sheet of plastic someone had tossed over the boxes. Ava pressed her hands to the chain link, whispering softly, "It's okay. I'm here now. I promise I won't let anything bad happen to you." The dog lifted his head, ears perked. Ava reached through the fence, her fingers trembling, and the German shepherd sniffed her hand before laying his head against her palm. For a few minutes, the world shrank down to just the two of them. One little girl with a broken heart, and one lonely dog with nowhere to go. Back at home, Lauren awoke to the sound of thunder and the distant wail of a siren. Instinct gripped her. Something was wrong. She rushed to Ava's room and found it empty, the window open, the curtain fluttering like a warning. Panic surged. She raced outside, scanning the street until she spotted a small figure huddled by the market fence. "Ava!" Lauren called, her voice sharp, fear and relief tangling together. Ava turned, startled but not afraid. "I was just talking to him, Mommy. He's so sad. Please can we take him home? Just for tonight. Just so he's not alone." Lauren's heart twisted. For a moment, all her worries, about money, about grief, about not being enough, fell away. All she saw was her daughter's hope, fragile but fierce, and the silent plea in the dog's eyes. Without another word, Lauren untied the leash. The vendor was gone, the market deserted, just the rain and the city lights gleaming off the pavement. She wrapped her arms around Ava, and together, they led the German shepherd home through the quiet streets. Inside, David met them at the door, half awake and wholly surprised. "Lauren, what?" She shook her head. "He's staying the night. We'll figure the rest out tomorrow." Ava smiled for the first time since they'd left the market. She dried off the dog with a towel, whispered words of comfort, and promised him again. "You're safe now. I won't let anything happen to you." The German shepherd curled up at her feet, exhausted, but for the first time in days, his eyes held a glimmer of trust. Lauren tucked Ava into bed, brushing damp hair from her forehead. "Thank you, Mommy," Ava whispered. "I think he was waiting for us." Lauren nodded, her own voice thick with emotion. "Maybe we were waiting for him, too." Outside, the storm faded, replaced by the quiet hush of midnight. For the first time in a long while, hope crept into the corners of the old house, settling beside the sleeping child and the dog she had rescued. Not just for one night, but maybe for forever. And somewhere in the darkness, the promise of a new beginning was made, one small act of kindness at a time. The first morning with the German shepherd in their house felt like a new world, tense, uncertain, and strangely fragile. Sunlight filtered through the kitchen window, dust motes dancing in the quiet air. The dog, who Ava had already started calling Chief, lay curled up in the laundry room, his nose tucked under his tail, flinching every time footsteps came too close. Ava hovered in the doorway, her stuffed rabbit pressed tight to her chest, whispering soft greetings and encouragements. "It's okay, Chief. You're home now. Nobody here will hurt you." Lauren moved through the morning on tiptoe, her heart aching every time Chief trembled at a closing door or the clatter of dishes. She saw the way he watched her with wary eyes, never fully relaxing, as if any sudden movement might send him bolting for cover. When David came downstairs, Chief pressed himself against the wall, ears flat, his whole body rigid with fear. David frowned, unsure how to act. "He's really scared, isn't he?" he said quietly. Lauren nodded, keeping her voice low. "He's been through a lot, David. We have to be patient." In truth, Lauren felt out of her depth. Her childhood dog had been nothing like this. Confident, goofy, never once afraid of thunder or strangers. Chief was different. He carried his fear around like an old coat, heavy and worn. Ava, undeterred, made it her mission to help. She gathered her favorite storybooks and sat just inside the laundry room, reading aloud in her small, careful voice. "Once upon a time," she began, "there was a brave dog who had no family, but he was very good and very smart." As she read, Chief kept his eyes on her, still trembling, but after a while his breathing slowed. He didn't run away. He didn't bark. He just listened. Hour after hour, Ava sat beside him, reading fairy tales and animal stories, offering pieces of her breakfast under the door. Sometimes she'd stop and simply talk to him about her day, her friends at preschool, or her memories of her grandmother. "You know, Chief," she whispered one afternoon, "I miss my grandma too. But maybe we can help each other not be so sad." In those moments, Lauren would pause in the hallway, listening to her daughter's voice. Gentle, steady, undemanding. It made Lauren's heart ache and swell at the same time. But progress was slow. Chief refused to eat unless the house was completely silent. He cowered from the sound of the vacuum cleaner, hid in corners when David spoke too loudly, and sometimes whimpered in his sleep, legs twitching as if running from nightmares only he could see. The whole family adjusted their routines, walking softly, lowering their voices, moving with the patience of saints. One morning, as Lauren tried to coax Chief out with a piece of turkey, her hand brushed his side, and she felt something. A rough patch, hidden beneath his fur, just above his ribs. Frowning, she parted the fur and saw it. An old, jagged scar, faded but unmistakable. The sight of it made her breath catch. She traced the outline with a trembling finger, Chief shivering but not pulling away. Ava, watching, looked up with wide eyes. "What's that, Mommy?" Lauren's answer was quiet. "It's a scar, honey. It means he got hurt a long time ago, but he survived." For a moment, the room was silent, except for the soft hum of the refrigerator. Lauren stared at the scar, wondering what kind of pain Chief had endured, wondering who had failed him so badly that he still wore his fear on the outside. That afternoon, Lauren found herself sitting on the porch steps, Chief's leash in her hands, staring out at the quiet street. Her thoughts tangled together, her mother's death, her daughter's sorrow, her own constant anxiety. She realized she and Chief had more in common than she'd thought. Both had been wounded. Both were trying to heal in a world that sometimes felt too sharp, too quick to judge. David joined her, silent for a while before he spoke. "Do you think he'll ever get better?" he asked. Lauren shrugged, blinking away tears she hadn't meant to show. "I don't know. But I think if we love him enough and give him time, maybe he can learn to trust us." She glanced at the window, where Ava sat reading to Chief, both of them bathed in golden sunlight. "Maybe we can all heal together." The days slipped by, each one a test of patience. Some mornings, Chief would allow Ava to sit a little closer, maybe even rest her hand on his back for a moment. Other days, he'd retreat again, haunted by fears that Lauren couldn't name. But each small victory, a tail wag, a slow blink, a tentative lick of Ava's palm, felt monumental. Lauren watched her daughter and Chief, their bond growing in quiet moments. She noticed how Ava's sadness lightened with every small success, how the little girl's laughter began to return, hesitant at first but brighter with each passing day. And Lauren, too, found herself less afraid of the future, less burdened by grief. Healing wasn't a straight line, she could see that now, but every gentle step forward mattered. One evening, as Lauren tucked Ava into bed, her daughter looked up and whispered, "I think Chief likes it here, Mommy. He's not as scared as before." Lauren smiled, brushing hair from Ava's forehead. "I think you're right, sweetheart. And I think he knows you saved him." Ava beamed, pride shining in her eyes. Downstairs, Chief curled up on his new blanket, the faintest hint of a wag in his tail. The scar on his side was still there, a reminder of his past. But in the quiet safety of his new home, he began to believe that maybe, just maybe, the worst was finally over. Lauren watched him settle, her heart lighter than it had been in months. She whispered a silent thank you to her mother, wherever she was, and promised herself she would not give up, on Chief, on Ava, or on herself. For the first time in a long while, hope felt like something solid, something she could hold on to. And as the house drifted toward sleep, the sound of Ava's gentle voice, telling Chief a bedtime story, wrapped them all in a cocoon of healing and new beginnings. The days that followed settled into a new rhythm, as if the entire house had shifted to accommodate Chief's tentative, fragile peace. It was a kind of quiet that didn't feel empty but careful, a household learning how to move softly, to offer space instead of pressure, to wait for trust instead of demanding it. Mornings began with the gentle clatter of Ava setting out a bowl of food and sitting, legs crossed, at a safe distance, humming songs from preschool. Chief's eyes would dart to her, uncertain but curious, and sometimes he would take a few shaky steps closer, sniffing the air as if to memorize her scent. Lauren, observing from the kitchen, felt a strange kinship with the dog's struggle. She too had spent weeks tensing at sudden noises, waking up with a pounding heart, wondering if she could handle one more thing. But there was something about the slow, steady way Ava reached out, a patience Lauren wished she had more of, both with her daughter and herself. Each day she reminded herself to be gentle, to forgive the small setbacks, to let healing happen in its own time. One bright afternoon, as sunlight streamed through the living room windows, Dr. Rachel Taylor arrived. She was the local veterinarian, a warm, practical woman with an easy laugh and a calm that seemed to settle the air as soon as she stepped inside. "Let's take it slow," Dr. Taylor said, crouching to Chief's level. She let him come to her, palm open, voice soft. Ava watched anxiously, wringing her hands, while Lauren held her breath. Chief hesitated, but something in Dr. Taylor's presence reassured him. Inch by inch, he crept forward, nose twitching, until he pressed his snout into her hand. Dr. Taylor smiled. "Good boy, Chief," she whispered. With Ava beside her, she offered him treats, praising every tiny act of bravery. "Dogs like Chief need to relearn the world," she explained. "They need to know it's safe to hope again." The next day, Ava brought out her hairbrush, a pink plastic thing she'd had since she was a toddler, and sat cross-legged on the floor. "Can I try brushing him, Mommy?" she asked. Lauren nodded, heart pounding. Just go slow, honey. At first, Chief shied away, his tail tucked so tight it nearly disappeared. But Ava waited, her brush resting on her knee, speaking softly about the stories she'd read and the dreams she'd had. Minutes stretched. Then, as if deciding to take a chance, Chief stepped forward, nosing the brush. Ava grinned, tears prickling in her eyes, and very gently she stroked his fur. Chief stood stock still, trembling, but he didn't bolt. Lauren snapped a picture, not daring to speak for fear of breaking the moment. When Ava finished, Chief wagged his tail, a shy, uncertain motion, but a victory nonetheless. See? Ava said, beaming. He likes being part of the family. That evening, Lauren and David sat on the back porch, watching the sunset burn pink and orange over the trees. Ava and Chief played in the yard, Ava tossing a ball and Chief, after much hesitation, chasing after it with cautious delight. David leaned back, the weight of worry lessening for the first time in weeks. She's really helping him, he said, more to himself than to Lauren. Lauren nodded, feeling a well of gratitude for her daughter's kindness. She's teaching us too. Sometimes I wonder if I'm failing her, or failing you, or Chief. David looked at her, eyes gentle. You're not failing anyone. You're holding us all together. They sat in silence, listening to Ava's laughter, still not as carefree as it once was, but brighter with every passing day. David took Lauren's hand, squeezing it. We're doing okay, one day at a time. Inside, life became a ritual of gentle encouragement and small, steady progress. Dr. Taylor checked in regularly, teaching Ava how to reward Chief for brave behavior, a treat for coming when called, a belly rub for sitting at the door, soft praise for every little leap of trust. Sometimes, Chief would bring his paw up to Ava's knee, as if asking, "Is this okay?" Each time Ava would smile and say, "You're safe, Chief, I promise." The house slowly filled with pictures, Ava's drawings taped to the fridge, crayon portraits of our family, me, Mommy, Daddy, and Chief. Lauren watched as her daughter's sadness began to lift, replaced by the fierce joy of helping someone who needed her. She saw it in the way Ava bounced down the stairs in the morning, eager to see if Chief would eat from her hand, in the stories she made up for him at bedtime, in the way she'd whisper secrets to him when she thought nobody was listening. The change in Chief was gradual but undeniable. His tail, once pressed tight to his belly, now wagged in quiet moments. He started exploring the house, one room at a time, stopping at doorways, glancing back for reassurance before venturing inside. He followed Ava to the garden, barked at squirrels, even curled up at her feet during story time. The scars of his past were still there, both the visible ones and those Lauren could only guess at. But for the first time, hope began to outweigh fear. One morning, Ava came running into the kitchen, breathless with excitement. "Mommy, look! Chief brought me his toy." She held up a battered tennis ball, its surface rough from years of neglect. "He wants to play." Lauren's heart soared. Chief, watching from the doorway, wagged his tail, eyes bright with anticipation. For a few precious minutes, the family played together in the living room, tossing the ball, cheering Chief on, laughing when he skidded across the floor in his eagerness. That night, Lauren found herself unable to sleep, the quiet peace of the house soothing instead of suffocating. She walked downstairs, pausing in the hallway to listen. From Ava's room came the sound of soft whispers, Ava talking to Chief about the dreams she hoped they'd share, the adventures they'd have. Lauren stood there for a long moment, letting the love and hope in her daughter's voice settle around her. For the first time since her mother's passing, Lauren believed that healing was possible, not just for Chief, but for her family too. She understood now that it wasn't about fixing everything at once. It was about showing up again and again with kindness and patience, and trusting that the smallest acts could make the biggest difference. And as dawn crept in, painting the world gold, Chief lay curled at the foot of Ava's bed, his breathing even and calm, a gentle sentinel for a little girl who had taught him and her family how to hope again. By the time spring painted the neighborhood in soft green and gold, Chief had become a fixture of daily life. He greeted Ava with a gentle nuzzle every morning, followed Lauren from room to room like a quiet shadow, and even learned to accept treats from David's steady hand. The house was lighter, laughter returning, routines mending, a new sense of family taking root. Chief's progress was slow but undeniable. He still startled at thunder or sudden shouts, but he no longer hid in corners or cowered from gentle hands. Ava taught him to fetch, to sit, to lie down. Every small milestone, like Chief dozing in a sunbeam or playfully nudging a toy across the kitchen floor, felt like a miracle. Lauren started to believe that maybe, just maybe, their broken pieces were coming together. But life, as always, had a way of testing fragile hope. It happened on a day that seemed as ordinary as any other. The sun was high, the air tinged with the promise of summer, and Ava was in the backyard, coloring chalk rainbows on the sidewalk, while Lauren clipped rose bushes nearby. Chief was lounging in the grass, eyes half closed, tail gently sweeping the earth. The peace felt almost sacred. Then, out of nowhere, a shriek cut through the calm. A neighbor's tabby cat darted across the yard, fur fluffed in terror, pursued by a shouting boy from next door. Instinct kicked in before thought could catch up. Chief lunged to his feet, every muscle tense, and gave chase, not out of malice but out of confusion and excitement. Ava, alarmed, dropped her chalk and sprinted after them, her small legs moving faster than Lauren had ever seen. "Ava!" Lauren screamed, panic tightening in her chest. "Stop! Don't go in the street!" But the cat, desperate for escape, darted through a gap in the hedge and streaked across the quiet road. Chief barreled after it, and, without thinking, Ava followed, her sneakers slapping the pavement. In that moment, the world seemed to tilt. Time slowed. A distant car engine roared around the corner, much too close. Lauren's heart froze as she saw her daughter running, hair streaming behind her, chasing the dog she loved. The car's horn blared, a scream of rubber and steel. Chief, catching sight of the vehicle bearing down on them, did something no one expected. He veered sideways, putting himself between Ava and the oncoming car. In a split second, Chief used his body to shove Ava out of the way, just as the car screeched and clipped him with a sickening thud. Ava landed hard on the far curb, scraping her knee. Chief sprawled in the middle of the street, motionless. The car skidded to a stop, the driver pale and shaking as he jumped out, shouting apologies. Lauren's world narrowed to one desperate point. She dropped her shears, vaulting the hedge with a force she didn't know she had, reaching Ava in an instant. "Are you hurt?" "Ava, talk to me," she cried, voice trembling. Ava, sobbing, shook her head, her wide eyes fixed on Chief's unmoving form. "Mommy, Chief, he pushed me! He saved me!" David, hearing the chaos from inside, bolted outside, his face white with terror. When he saw Chief in the road, a horrible sound escaped him. He dropped to his knees beside the dog, hands shaking, checking for breath, for a heartbeat, anything. For a second, it seemed hopeless. Chief's eyes were closed, his breathing shallow, blood trickling from a cut above his paw. A crowd gathered. The driver knelt, stammering apologies, voice thick with guilt. "I didn't see them, I swear." Is he going to be okay? A neighbor came running with a blanket. Lauren pressed it to Chief's side, trying to stop the bleeding. Ava clung to David, tears streaming down her cheeks, her chalk-stained hands shaking. "Call the vet! Please!" Lauren's voice rose above the din. Someone dialed Dr. Taylor, and within minutes, she screeched into the driveway, her car barely at a stop before she rushed over, medical bag in hand. She examined Chief swiftly, her face grave. "He's in shock. We need to get him to the animal hospital now." David and Lauren, with trembling hands, loaded Chief into Dr. Taylor's car. Ava climbed in after them, refusing to let go of Chief's paw. The drive to the emergency clinic was a blur. Lauren's heart hammering, David gripping her hand, Ava whispering, "Please don't die, Chief. Please don't die," over and over, as if sheer will could hold him to this world. At the clinic, Chief was whisked away on a stretcher, Dr. Taylor barking orders to the staff. Lauren and David tried to comfort Ava, but she was inconsolable, eyes fixed on the doors where Chief had disappeared. Hours passed, each one heavier than the last. Ava refused to eat or leave the waiting room. Lauren found herself bargaining with the universe, promising anything, her sleep, her time, her tears, if only Chief would come back to them. Finally, Dr. Taylor emerged, tired but hopeful. "He's stable for now. He took a nasty hit, but your quick thinking helped. The next 24 hours are critical. He's a fighter, that much I can promise." Relief and exhaustion crashed over the family. David buried his face in his hands. Lauren hugged Ava tight, and for the first time Ava let herself cry, not in fear, but in gratitude. Word of Chief's heroism spread quickly. The driver visited the clinic, bringing flowers and an apology. Neighbors left notes and dog treats on the porch. Even the local newspaper called for a quote, wanting to write about the brave rescue dog who saved a little girl's life. But for Ava, the only thing that mattered was sitting by Chief's kennel, holding his paw through the bars, whispering promises. "You saved me. I'll never leave you, Chief. Never." That night, as the world spun quietly on, the family sat together in the waiting room, the weight of disaster slowly giving way to devotion. Chief's fate was still uncertain, but his place in their hearts was undeniable. They were his family, and more than ever, he was theirs. Chief survived the night, but just barely. He remained at the animal hospital for days, hooked up to tubes and monitors, his breaths coming slow and shallow. The staff marveled at his resilience. Dr. Taylor visited every morning before sunrise, and every evening after her rounds, whispering, "Hang on, Chief, they need you." Ava barely left his side, curling up in a borrowed chair, coloring pictures for Chief's kennel. Even David, always the practical one, found himself quietly stroking Chief's ears, the memory of the accident never far from his mind. When Chief was finally cleared to go home, he was bandaged and tired, but his tail wagged softly at the sight of Ava and Lauren. The family bundled him in blankets, set him up in the coziest spot by the window, and rearranged the living room just to make his recovery easier. The whole house seemed to breathe again, hope seeping back into the walls. Every little sign of improvement, a twitch of his ears, a nose pressed to Ava's palm, the slow return of appetite, became cause for celebration. But peace never lasts long. One cloudy afternoon, about a week after Chief returned, Lauren decided to take him for a gentle walk around the block. The air was fresh, laced with the scent of new grass, and Chief trotted alongside her, still moving slow but determined to reclaim the world he'd nearly lost. Ava tagged along, holding Chief's leash with pride, chattering about the get-well-soon cards her classmates had sent. They had just turned the corner, approaching the edge of the old farmer's market, when a voice sliced through the afternoon. "Well, well, look what we have here." Lauren's stomach dropped. Standing by a battered pickup, arms crossed, was Rick Barnes, the man who had once claimed Chief as his property. He looked rough around the edges. Thick beard, angry eyes, a sneer curling his lips as he sized up the family and the dog. Rick's gaze settled on Chief, and for a second, something mean flickered there. "Didn't think you'd have the guts to walk my dog around town," he spat, stepping closer. Chief froze, every muscle tensing, his body language shifting instantly from comfort to dread. Eva instinctively wrapped both arms around Chief's neck, holding tight. Lauren squared her shoulders, her voice steady but cold. "Chief isn't your dog anymore. He's ours. The vet and the animal control officers have all the paperwork." Rick snorted, unfazed. "Paperwork don't mean anything. You think you're better than me just 'cause you got a fancy lawyer? That mutt was mine for years. You had no right." Ava's grip tightened. "He's not yours," she whispered, so quietly only Chief and Lauren could hear. Chief, as if emboldened by her touch, lifted his head and bared his teeth. Not a wild snarl, but a warning, a line drawn in the sand. Rick's sneer deepened. He knelt down, hands reaching for Chief's collar. "I'm taking my property back. Get out of the way, kid." But Lauren stepped in front of Ava, planting herself between her daughter and the man. "If you come near my daughter or this dog again, I'll call the police. We know what you did, how you treated him. You're lucky you're not in jail already." For a tense moment, the street was silent except for the soft whimpering of Chief, his entire body shivering with the memory of old pain. Rick's eyes darted, taking in the determined set of Lauren's jaw, the crowd of onlookers starting to gather, the cell phones already raised and filming. He spat on the ground, fury barely contained. "You think you've won, but this isn't over. I'll get what's mine." With that, he stalked off to his truck, slamming the door so hard the windows rattled. The engine roared to life, tires spinning as he sped away, leaving behind the stink of burnt rubber and old grudges. Ava burst into tears, burying her face in Chief's fur. Lauren wrapped them both in her arms, heart pounding. "It's okay, sweetheart. He can't hurt us, not anymore." But as she held her daughter and their trembling dog, Lauren felt a new worry settle in her bones. Rick was dangerous, not just to Chief, but maybe to all of them. She called Dr. Taylor and the local authorities that night, recounting the encounter in careful detail. Dr. Taylor's voice was grave. "He's got a record of neglect, Lauren. We're already investigating him, but you should keep Chief close and never let him out of your sight." The next few days were tense. Lauren double-checked every lock on the doors and windows, took different routes on their walks, and never let Chief into the yard alone. David installed cameras around the property, and neighbors rallied around, offering support and promising to watch for any sign of Rick's truck. But even with all the precautions, fear lingered. Ava was quieter, sometimes waking in the night from nightmares, always running to check on Chief. Chief, for his part, seemed to sense the tension, sticking close to Ava and Lauren, sometimes standing guard at the foot of Ava's bed, as if daring the world to try and take him again. One night, as rain tapped the window, Ava sat beside Chief on her bedroom floor, tracing the outline of his scar with gentle fingers. "You're safe now," she whispered over and over, as if the words could shield him from the world outside. "We won't let him take you. You're my family." Lauren listened from the doorway, torn between anger and fear, love and helplessness. She wanted to believe that good people always won, that justice would be swift, but the real world was messier than that. All she could do was hold her family close, trust their growing community, and hope that their love would be strong enough to outlast the shadows of the past. And so the days pressed on, full of small victories and constant vigilance, of laughter shared over cautious games of fetch, of whispered reassurances in the dark. Chief's wounds healed, but the scars, his and theirs, would take longer. Still, in every gentle touch and every promise kept, they built something that Rick could never destroy. A family forged by resilience, courage, and hope. And in the darkness, as Chief slept beside Eva's bed, a silent vow echoed through the house. No matter what ghosts returned, they would never let him go. After Rick's threat, Lauren barely slept, but something had shifted in their home, a determination that went deeper than fear. Chief's presence was no longer just a fragile hope, but a living promise. The days passed, and with each sunrise the town seemed to rally around the family. Neighbors came by with treats and homemade signs. Chief, Burlington's hero. Word of the accident and Rick's ugly outburst spread, and quietly, loyalties were drawn. Ava's school even invited Chief for Hero Dog Day. The kids circled around, eager to pet him, listening as Ava, shy but proud, told how Chief saved her life. Chief, once the trembling stray, accepted their pats and giggled squeals with a soft patience, letting small hands ruffle his fur and nestling beside those who seemed nervous. Even the principal, never one for sentiment, winked at Ava and said, "You've got a remarkable friend there." With support swelling, Lauren decided they needed to do more than hide. She signed Chief up for the Burlington Dog Fair, the town's biggest spring event, a bustling weekend filled with food trucks, games, and dog contests. At first, David worried. With Rick still out there, do we really want to draw attention? But Lauren, steady and resolute, shook her head. Chief shouldn't have to live in fear. We belong in this community. He does too. Preparation became a family affair. Dr. Taylor checked Chief's health and offered training tips, coming over after work to practice obstacle courses in the backyard. Ava made a medal out of glitter and ribbon, slipping it onto Chief's collar and whispering, "You already won, no matter what happens." Even David, once cautious, threw himself into the project, rigging makeshift tunnels and jumps from broomsticks and cardboard boxes. The day of the fair dawned bright and breezy. The market square was transformed, booths decorated with streamers, kids racing with leashed puppies, the scent of barbecue and kettle corn drifting through the air. Chief wore a blue bandana, and Ava walked beside him, head high, Lauren and David close behind. The crowd greeted them with applause. Strangers came up to say, "We heard about your dog. He's amazing." Ava glowed, pride mixing with nerves. But amid the cheers and laughter, danger still lurked. Rick was there, hovering on the edges, a dark shape in the sun, arms crossed, eyes hard as flint. He glared at the family, whispered to a man in a suit standing nearby. Ava saw him and hesitated, clutching Chief's leash tighter. Lauren knelt, meeting her daughter's worried gaze. "Hey," she murmured, "whatever happens out there, we're together. You, me, Daddy, and Chief. That's what matters." Chief, as if understanding, pressed his head into Ava's side, steady and reassuring. The contest began with the best rescue round, a parade of dogs with their adoption stories. Chief trotted onto the stage, ears high. Ava read their story into the microphone, her voice trembling at first, then gaining strength. She told the crowd about the farmer's market, about Chief's fear and his courage. She finished with, "He saved me. But we saved him too. That's what family does." The crowd roared with applause. Next came the obstacle course. Weave poles, a tunnel, hurdles, and a seesaw. Ava's hands shook, but Chief waited for her signal. With Lauren and David cheering, Chief darted forward. He wove between poles, a little clumsy at first, but Ava encouraged him at every turn. He crawled through the tunnel, paused for a moment at the seesaw, and then, with a burst of trust, bounded over it, earning a burst of laughter from the audience. The final jump was the tallest. Ava hesitated, remembering all of Chief's fears. She knelt, face to face with him. "It's okay if you can't, buddy. I'm proud of you anyway." But Chief surprised everyone. With a determined look in his eyes, he leapt, clearing the bar, landing in a flurry of applause and happy barking. The judges conferred, grinning. A volunteer handed Ava a ribbon. "First place, Transformation Award." Ava knelt to drape it around Chief's neck. "You did it!" she squealed, hugging him tight. Lauren wiped tears from her eyes as David lifted Ava into his arms. The three of them tangled together with laughter and disbelief. In that moment, the whole community seemed to exhale, a sense that justice and love could win, that even broken dogs and grieving families could find a place in the sun. Chief's story became the talk of the fair. A reporter snapped their picture, neighbors lined up to shake Lauren's hand, and families with shy or frightened dogs asked, "How did you help him?" Lauren shared what they'd learned. It takes time and love, that's all. But not everyone celebrated. On the sidelines, Rick watched, his jaw tight. He spoke in heated whispers to the suited man, the lawyer Ava had seen earlier. Something cold passed between them, a threat lingering in Rick's glare. Lauren caught the look, her heart skipping. She knew this wasn't over. Rick wouldn't give up so easily. As the fair wound down, Ava clung to Chief's neck, burying her face in his fur. "You were so brave," she whispered. "I wish Grandma could have seen you." Chief nuzzled her, as if to say, "I'm here and I'm not going anywhere." That night, at home, Ava drew another picture. Their family under a blue sky, Chief wearing his ribbon, Rick, a dark figure, at the very edge, unable to reach them. Lauren taped it to the fridge, her hands shaking, eyes misty with gratitude and worry. And as the house grew quiet, a sense of hope, fragile but fierce, filled the rooms. They had won a victory, not just in the ring, but in the hearts of everyone who heard Chief's story. Yet in the shadows, Rick plotted, already looking for a new way to reclaim what he thought was his. But for now, Chief slept curled at Ava's feet, ribbon still tied around his neck, dreaming not of fear, but of sunlight, laughter, and the love of a family that finally called him home. The glow from the dog fair barely had time to fade before the next storm arrived. Days after Chief's triumphant ribbon win, Lauren found a thick envelope wedged in their mailbox, a letter from Rick's lawyer. The message was clear and cold. Rick was suing to reclaim Chief, claiming he was stolen property, demanding immediate return. For a moment, Lauren's hands shook so badly she almost dropped the paper. David read it in silence, then wrapped an arm around her shoulders. "He won't take Chief away from us. We're not giving up," he promised. But the fear returned. Even Ava could sense it. The way Lauren checked the locks, how David paced in the evenings, the constant phone calls with Dr. Taylor and friends in the neighborhood. "What's going to happen to Chief?" Ava asked one night, small voice trembling. Lauren knelt beside her, brushing hair from her face. "We're going to fight for him, honey. Chief is family, and we don't let family go." Word of the lawsuit spread quickly. Burlington was a small town, and everyone remembered the rescue dog who'd saved Ava's life. Neighbors brought over fresh-baked pies, signed petitions, and left notes of support. Local news stations called. The animal shelter organized a rally, and social media filled with photos of Ava and Chief. Strangers wrote letters, sharing their own rescue stories and begging the judge not to break up a family. As the court date neared, tension in the house thickened. Ava made a sign for Chief's bed. "You're staying forever." Each night she whispered promises in his ear. "No one's taking you. I'll be brave." Chief, sensing her fear, never left her side. Even when nightmares woke Ava, Chief was there, steady, unflinching, a living shield against the world. The morning of the hearing dawned gray and cold. Lauren dressed Ava in her best blue dress, the one her grandmother had loved. David wore a suit and tie, hands shaking as he tied his shoes. Dr. Taylor met them at the courthouse steps, offering a tight smile and a thermos of tea. "You're not alone," she said quietly. "We all know who Chief belongs with." Inside the courthouse, the air buzzed with anticipation. Reporters gathered by the door, sketch pads and microphones ready. Rick sat at the front, flanked by his lawyer, glaring at the family as they entered. Ava hugged Chief's neck, burying her face in his fur. "It's okay," she whispered. "We're together." When the judge entered, everyone stood. The proceedings began quickly, Rick's lawyer reading off legal codes and property rights, insisting that Chief was nothing more than a misplaced possession. Rick smirked, arms folded. The family listened in silence, fear churning in their stomachs. But then it was Lauren's turn. She stood tall, voice clear but trembling. "Chief is not property. He's family. He's loved here. He's safe. All he ever wanted was kindness. And we gave him that. Please, Your Honor, don't punish him for someone else's cruelty." Ava's hands shook as she took her place beside Lauren, a letter clutched tight in her fist. The judge peered over her glasses. "You have something you'd like to say, young lady?" Ava nodded, swallowing hard. "Chief is my family, and I am his," she read, her voice growing steadier with every word. "He saved me from a car. He sleeps in my room and listens to my secrets. He was scared when he came to us, but now he's happy. If you send him away, he'll be scared again. Please let him stay. Please." As she finished, Chief sat beside her on the witness stand, tail thumping quietly. The whole room seemed to lean in, held by the bond between girl and dog. Dr. Taylor testified next, describing Chief's injuries and the evidence of long-term abuse. She spoke of the changes she'd witnessed. Chief was broken when he arrived, starving, scarred, afraid of every loud voice. This family saved him. He became brave, loyal, and loving. For the first time in his life, he is truly safe. The prosecutor for the town read letters from neighbors, showed petitions, and pointed out how Rick had been investigated for animal neglect in the past. Lauren's courage as a single mother was spotlighted, the crowd's support echoing through every word. Finally, the judge sat back, silent for a long, heavy moment. She looked at Rick, then at Ava, Chief, and Lauren. This court recognizes the bond that has formed between this child and her dog. The law cannot ignore compassion, nor can it condone returning a rescued animal to a life of neglect. The best interests of Chief and of this community are clear. The judge's gavel fell. Chief will remain with the family that saved him. Case closed. For a heartbeat, no one moved. Then the courtroom erupted. Cheers, applause, and tears. Ava clung to Chief, laughing and sobbing at once. Lauren and David hugged, relief and gratitude overwhelming them. Dr. Taylor wiped her eyes, beaming. Even the bailiff smiled, whispering, "Good job, kid." Outside, the crowd cheered as the family emerged, Chief trotting proudly at Ava's side, his tail wagging high. Reporters snapped photos, capturing the joy and disbelief on Ava's face. Lauren knelt, hugging her daughter and their brave dog. "You did it," she whispered. "We did it." That night, back home, the celebration continued. Neighbors filled the living room, bringing casseroles and lemonade. The animal shelter director presented Chief with a new collar and a tag shaped like a heart. "Chief, forever family." Ava hung her courtroom letter above her bed, a reminder that courage comes in many forms. As the family settled in for the night, Chief curled up at Ava's feet, safe and warm. The battle was over, but the lesson lingered. Love isn't about ownership or blood. It's about loyalty, bravery, and fighting for those who cannot fight for themselves. In the darkness, Ava whispered her final promise for the night. "You're home, Chief. No one will ever take you away again." The days after the court victory felt like waking from a long, hard winter into unexpected sunlight. For weeks, Lauren moved through her house lighter, as if a heavy, invisible weight had lifted. There was no more checking the locks twice before bed, no more anxious glances out the window for Rick's truck. For Ava, nightmares faded and her laughter returned, full and bright, echoing through every room. Chief, once a shivering shadow in the corner, became the heartbeat of the home. Always nearby, tail wagging, eyes bright with a joy none of them had seen before. To celebrate, the family hosted a community picnic in the park. They wanted to thank everyone, friends, neighbors, Dr. Taylor, even strangers who had written letters, who had stood by them and Chief through the long fight. The sun was high, the grass a soft carpet dotted with picnic blankets and kids' shoes, and a breeze carried the scent of grilled corn and fresh lemonade. Balloons danced on the fences, and tables overflowed with food and laughter. Ava wore her best yellow dress, the one with flowers, and Chief sported his new heart-shaped tag and blue ribbon. The two were inseparable. Ava braided a piece of her favorite friendship bracelet into Chief's collar. "So you'll always remember we're together," she whispered, hugging him tight. For Ava, this was more than a party. It was a promise kept. Lauren stood at the edge of the crowd, watching her daughter run barefoot across the grass, Chief bounding behind her, chasing soap bubbles blown by a giggling toddler. She felt a surge of gratitude so strong it left her breathless. Months ago, she couldn't have imagined this. A day without grief pressing down on her, a moment when hope seemed ordinary instead of rare. After lunch, with everyone gathered around, Lauren cleared her throat and stepped onto a picnic bench. The chatter faded. She wasn't used to public speaking, but the words came anyway, simple and true. "I just want to say thank you," she began, her voice trembling. "When Chief came into our lives, he was so scared, and honestly, so were we. But all of you helped us see that healing is possible. Chief taught us how to trust again, how to forgive, and how to love even when it's hard. We didn't just save him. He saved us too." People clapped, and some wiped away tears. Dr. Taylor hugged Lauren, then knelt to rub Chief's ears. "You're a hero, buddy," she whispered. "You showed everyone what second chances can do." David, watching from the grill, felt his eyes sting, and he pulled Ava close. "We're so lucky to have you," he said, ruffling her hair. As the afternoon wore on, families shared their own stories of rescue, of pets who healed broken hearts, of neighbors who stepped up in hard times. Kids made posters, "Adopt, don't shop," and "Every animal deserves a home." Several families asked about fostering or adopting from the shelter. By the end of the day, the director of the animal shelter was surrounded by new volunteers, sign-up sheets overflowing. The ripples of Chief's story spread through the crowd, one small act of kindness multiplying into dozens more. Later, sitting beneath a big oak tree, Ava leaned against her mom, Chief's head in her lap. She looked up, her face serious. "Mommy, I'm not scared anymore," she said softly. "Not of bad dreams or bullies, or even the dark. Chief taught me that if we love someone enough, we can get through anything. Together." Lauren hugged her, tears spilling over. "You're right, honey. And sometimes, the hardest journeys bring us to the best places." She looked at Chief, thinking of all the nights she'd lain awake, afraid she was failing her family. But now, seeing her daughter's shining eyes and the gentle rise and fall of Chief's chest, she understood. Real courage wasn't about never being afraid, but choosing to keep loving, even after you've been hurt. The lessons echoed through the day. Healing isn't a straight line. Some days are setbacks. Others are filled with sudden joy. Family isn't about ownership, but about the choice to stay, again and again, no matter what the past holds. Chief's loyalty wasn't owed. It was earned, one gentle word and one act of kindness at a time. As the picnic wound down, neighbors hugged goodbye, promising to visit soon. Kids crowded around Chief, giving him a last scratch or hug. Ava waved as her friends left, then turned to her mom. "Can we help more dogs, Mommy? Chief was lonely for so long. What if there are others like him?" Lauren smiled, her heart full. "We can, and we will. It's what your grandma would have wanted." Ava beamed, her resolve shining. "Then that's what we'll do." That evening, after the last guest had gone, the family sat on their porch steps, watching the sun dip low behind the trees. Fireflies blinked on, and Chief lay at their feet, sighing in contentment. David wrapped an arm around Lauren. Ava leaned against her mom, and for a while no one spoke. They didn't need to. Inside, Ava hung a new drawing on the refrigerator. Their family under a rainbow, Chief in the middle, hearts connecting them all. On the back, she wrote, "We're braver together." As darkness fell and the first stars appeared, Lauren reflected on all they'd learned. Healing is a journey, a winding path through pain, setbacks, and hope. Family is built, not given. And the greatest courage is the quiet, persistent choice to love, even when loving hurts. Chief, once unwanted, once broken, had become the anchor and the hope for an entire family. And in his healing, he'd inspired a whole town to open their hearts too. In the stillness, Ava whispered her own promise to the night. "Thank you for finding us, Chief. We'll keep loving, no matter what." And in the gentle quiet of their home, the past was finally being rewritten, not erased, but healed, one loving day at a time. 6 months after the court case, Burlington's farmers' market looked different. Not just busier or brighter, but somehow changed in spirit. Where once there had been a lonely, frightened dog chained near a food stall, there were now families laughing, rescue pets lounging in the shade, and volunteers from the shelter passing out treats and flyers. It felt like a new beginning for everyone. And for Ava's family, it was the start of a season filled with gratitude, laughter, and a sense of peace they'd almost forgotten was possible. Ava woke early that Saturday, excitement fizzing in her chest. She bounded into the kitchen, where Lauren and David were already sipping coffee, sunlight streaming through the window. Chief sat at Ava's feet, tail wagging, already sensing it was a special day. "Let's go, Chief," Ava called, clipping on his heart-shaped tag. David handed Ava a bag of dog treats. "You two ready for your big return?" Ava grinned, nodding, and Lauren knelt to tie Ava's shoe. "Remember," Lauren said, her voice warm and a little teary, "today you're not just visitors. You're examples. Be kind. Help others. Show everyone what love can do." The market bustled with new energy. Booths sold homemade dog biscuits and hand-painted signs reading "Adopt, don't shop. Children played fetch with adopted dogs, and Ava noticed that many families had brought their new rescue pets to join the fun. Chief walked beside Ava, his head high, tail wagging, a dog transformed from the skittish, trembling soul they'd first met. As the family moved through the crowd, people stopped to greet them. "Is this the famous Chief?" a woman asked, her toddler clinging to her leg. "He's even more handsome in person." Others thanked Lauren and Ava for sharing their story, saying it had inspired them to foster or adopt. David shook hands with an older man who'd taken in a stray cat after reading about Chief's rescue. Everywhere, there were echoes of kindness, small acts rippling outward. Near the old food stall, the very spot where Chief's story had started, Ava noticed a boy about her age standing stiffly beside his mother, his eyes wary as he stared at a golden retriever lying nearby. Ava recognized the look, fear and longing tangled together. She approached, Chief by her side. "Hi," she said gently. "This is Chief. He used to be scared of everything, but now he loves coming here. Want to pet him?" The boy hesitated, but Chief settled down quietly, tail sweeping the ground, brown eyes soft and patient. After a moment, the boy knelt and reached out. Chief nuzzled his hand, gentle as a breeze. The boy's mother blinked back tears. "He's never touched a dog before. He's always been afraid." Ava smiled. "I was afraid too sometimes. But Chief helped me. He can help anyone." The boy grinned, shy but proud, and scratched Chief's head. Lauren watched the scene, her heart swelling. She glanced at David, who squeezed her hand. "Look at them," he whispered. "This is what it's all about." All around, she saw the changes, the families, the laughter, the new beginnings, all rooted in one act of rescue. Later that afternoon, the shelter director called for attention. Lauren was invited to say a few words. She stood before the crowd, Ava and Chief at her side, her voice clear and full of emotion. "When we first found Chief, he was terrified. He didn't trust anyone, and honestly, neither did I. But our town taught me something. When you reach out to help, whether it's a person or a pet, you change more than just one life. Rescue is mutual. Chief saved us as much as we saved him." She looked around at the sea of faces, friends, neighbors, strangers now connected by hope. The impact of one small kindness can ripple through a whole community. Love, patience, and courage can transform even the deepest scars. If you see someone, two-legged or four, who needs help, don't walk away. Every small kindness makes a world of difference. The crowd erupted in applause. Several families signed up to foster, children begged to walk shelter dogs, and local businesses pledged donations for rescue efforts. Ava handed out her drawings, each one showing a happy animal and a family, together beneath a bright sun. As the sun set, painting the sky orange and pink, Ava, Chief, and their family strolled through the market one last time. For the first time in a long while, the past no longer weighed them down. Chief was confident, tail high, no longer the lonely, frightened dog from months ago. Lauren and David walked hand in hand, a gentle warmth between them. Ava skipped ahead, laughter spilling into the twilight. As they reached the park's edge, Chief paused and looked back at the family, as if to say, "This is where I belong." Ava knelt and hugged him, whispering, "Thank you for being brave. Thank you for being ours." On their way home, they passed a mural being painted on the community center wall. It showed a dog, a little girl, and a family, surrounded by a garden of hearts. Beneath it, in Ava's careful handwriting, were the words, "We're braver together." That evening, after dinner, Ava sat on the porch steps. Chief curled at her side, fireflies drifted by. Lauren joined her, putting an arm around her shoulders. You changed the world, sweetheart. Chief did too. You know, sometimes the smallest voice can make the loudest difference. Ava leaned into her mother. Can we help more dogs, Mom? Or cats? Or maybe even people who are lonely? Lauren kissed the top of her head. Yes, honey. That's what we'll do. That's what we'll always do. Inside, David hung the last blue ribbon on the wall beside Ava's drawings. For a moment, the house was quiet, peaceful, content, full of new beginnings. And outside, in the warm summer night, the laughter of Ava, Chief, and their family rang through the air, a promise that kindness and courage would always lead them forward. If you see someone who needs help, don't walk away. Every small kindness makes a world of difference. And as the story of Chief and his family spread, it wasn't just about one dog or one little girl, but about a whole community choosing love and the healing that comes when you do.